so, so I went to the professional helper hour, and I found out about it from the college, the interpreting college, and I just bought a picture. Just put it down on a table where there were some people my age and they were signing, and I said, "Hi, my name is Danny," and of course I was signing using sign language, and I bought a beer for everybody. Want a drink?
At that point, were you using ASL, which is American Sign Language?
I was using it. I've been using it like my whole life, but you mean like as far as like work, or what do you mean by?
Yeah. So, let's say if you go meet a deaf community circle somewhere in America, you would use ASL, right?
Oh yeah.
And then with your parents and their friends, you would use Hong Kong
sign language. Well, yeah. After I guess after I was 3 or 4 years old, my parents and their Chinese friends, they started picking up on basic American Sign Language, and then my mother, she decided that I should only learn ASL because I was mixing up both Hong Kong and American Sign Language.
That was my question, because bilingual people or trilingual people, they do mix languages when they talk, right? And in one sentence you can get a crazy mix of stuff. I do that too. I'm guilty of that. Does that happen?
Oh yes, yeah. And it's really funny. Even after I grew up with basically American Sign Language for, I don't know, 25 years, 10 years ago when I was 20, up until 25 years old, I was, using American Sign Language as part of my work.
Right.
I was meeting with deaf people in America and just using American Sign Language only, and maybe a little bit of Hong Kong Sign Language. But when I came to Japan and I started meeting Japanese deaf people, as soon as I learned a new Japanese sign, that would mess up my ASL. So even that little, like, for 25 years, just a little bit of an introduction to Japanese Sign Language still affected my life. I guess it's the same part of your brain.
Why do you think that happens? Because I think it also happens with spoken languages. As soon as people, come here and they start speaking Japanese, like, it takes over. It dominates, really.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I guess people who are bilingual or trilingual, their brain are flexible to learn other languages, so that's, I guess, the learning process.
Right.
But for people who cannot speak a second language, they won't have that problem because it's hard for them to learn a second language, so they won't mix up their languages. I'm not sure. Yeah.
So, which brings us to the question, how many languages do you speak?
I speak English, Japanese, and a little bit of Cantonese, which is spoken in the majority of Hong Kong and Australia and Canada.
That's 3 spoken.
3 spoken.
Plus?
Plus American Sign Language, Japanese Sign Language, Hong Kong Sign Language, and I guess just from knowing 3 sign languages, you can kind of figure out a lot of other sign languages, because I think the vocabulary lends itself to be easier than a spoken language. So for instance, how do you say telephone in Japanese?
Sign?
Or just spoken Japanese?
Oh, like denwa?
Denwa, right? And in English, it's telephone. So denwa and telephone sound nothing alike.
Right, no.
Completely different, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, and I'm sure in French and like in Russian it's gonna be completely different.
In Russian it's telephone.
Oh, okay, so they just borrowed it, right? Okay, so, but if I were to just do the gesture for telephone, that's it.
The same thing.
It's super easy, right? So it lends itself, sign language lends itself to be more, it gets visually similar to other sign languages.
Right.
So that's the advantage of sign language, right? So so 3 sign languages, and so also international sign.
What is international sign?
It was for
Esperanto?
It's kind of like Esperanto, except there isn't. I guess Esperanto started from like governments. They wanted to do that. Yeah, governments supported. Yeah, this is more out of like just the deaf people around the world, when they would meet together and for like a World Deaf Association or organization, or like the Deaf Olympics. You'd have many deaf people from different countries, and they all come together for about a week, and they're trying to figure out how to talk to each other. And even though it is simpler to get your idea across in sign language compared to spoken language, there were still people wanted to have more of a consistent vocabulary. People wanted to have a more consistent vocabulary, for instance, for like government or city.
Right.
So they used a lot of, I would say, standard signs that they all agreed upon.
Okay. How do they agree? Like, is there a paper or a handout or a book where it says, okay, we're using this for a city or?
I think, I'm not really sure, but the World Deaf Federation, or the Federation of the World, you know what, I forget, hold on, can I just do some research? You get all these acronyms and it's hard to remember everything.
Right.
Especially like, my brain is like, the world?
My brain is so, like, I can pick up any language.
Yeah.
Wait a second, I need to research.
World Deaf Federation, that's what it is.
World Deafness.
Oh, sorry, World Federation of the Deaf. See, that's what it is. It's like so similar.
Yeah, because it's exactly the same thing. World
Federation
of the Deaf.
So
WFD.
Right. So the WFD, they have their, I believe, their annual, biannual, or it's kind of like the Olympics every 4 years where they meet. And I think the first time where they all met, it was the representatives of each deaf association in that country. And when they got together, they for 2 days they were deciding on what signs would be good for to be representative of words.
Right.
And then they made a book, a pamphlet. But after that, they came up with about maybe over 100 words. But after that, they didn't update it or revise it. They also were able to accomplish sign languages representing each country. So,
Right.
for instance, before them, the American Sign Language for Japan and China and Korea was a little bit kind of stereotypical and kind of discriminating. So, for example, J and J by the eyes. So, because Asians have small eyes, right?
Okay.
So, China C and Korea K.
Uh-huh.
So, with the representatives from all these different countries, they decided to use their country's sign to represent or to teach everybody else what was their sign. So, for instance, Japan was Japan.
The shape.
The shape of the islands, right? China, there's a few, but I think you have this representing the Chinese character for middle.
Uh-huh.
So,
Oh, I see. Yeah,
yeah.
because it goes like that.
Right, if you know kanji, it has the first part.
Okay.
Or there's like this, and there's also this.
You use that a lot.
I use this a lot.
Yeah.
So I actually think China, because the representative may have decided to do this, that spread, but some people in China still don't know that sign for China.
Oh, really?
So they just go like this, yeah.
Okay.
So it's still not, well, yeah, of course, there's no dictionary, so
Right.
there's only that little handbook, and it was only given to people who were at that event.
Oh, I see.
Right, or
so
who
it just didn't spread
out, right?
Yeah.
Or people who are the Deaf Olympics, they can buy those books.
Okay.
So it's not difficult. It is useful, but it's kind of like Esperanto. It's a frozen language
Yeah.
because nobody is constantly
Updating
using
it.
and updating international sign language. And the most interesting thing is that the problem with international sign language is with like Esperanto is like, what alphabet or system am I going to use, right?
Right.
So because English by default is used, I guess, everywhere around the world. Most people use English, right? It's kind of the same thing with American Sign Language. The American Sign Language has become so popular around the world, and of course America has the first deaf university called Gallaudet University.
Yes.
And they accept a lot of international students
Right.
for the past, I mean, they've been around since 1880s. So
86, I think.
So 1886, yeah, it's been a long time. So they have the reputation and they have the international students come, and then when the international students graduate, they go back to their countries.
Right.
They start teaching American Sign
Right.
Language. Of course, you had also the American missionaries
Yes.
who would go out and preach the Bible to
Right.
other countries, and they would teach American Sign Language to those local deaf people.
Right.
I mean, the unfortunate thing is that those local deaf people, they don't have their local sign language anymore.
Right.
American
So
Sign Language
it-
is kind of
it dominates.
dominated.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that's just the unfortunate thing about that. Yeah.
Right.